Hello, this is Rick Anderson with the Pythagoras, Trigonometry and Vectors part of the overall GCSE maths syllabus that I cover. In this case it's the particular one about trigonometry with Pythagoras and Vectors, and within this there are 8 subjects covered, and there's actually 5 or 6 slide packs which cover those. Now each of those slide packs has a common format. You can edit it, click through it. I've set up slideshows within them. And each of the slide packs, each of the 5 or 6 slide packs which covers these topics is common format of context, summary, detail, work solutions, closing questions, and will feature SOHCAHTOA quite a lot, as you might imagine, but also 3D is covered in one of the others. Okay, so vectors as well. It sort of doesn't quite fit, but it is included in this part of the syllabus officially. So vectors you'll get in this slide zip file as well. But we're going to concentrate on trigonometry in this particular video. So sine, cos and tan, there's the common format that we talked about. And I always like to start with the context of where it sits in the whole syllabus. So there is a zip file for each of these, but this one is about trig, Pythag, vectors, and trigonometry is the one we're particularly looking at. Okay, and I like to say that what sort of grade does it fit in? Well, it starts just about in the grade 5, foundation sort of slot, but grows up probably to go 5, 6, 7. You find the sine rule, cos rule is at the higher end, but this is the basic right angle SOHCAHTOA part of the syllabus. And I like to start with a little bit of sometimes a bit of a story, and where does sine, cos and tan come from? You might be surprised to know it comes from bowstring. The shape is sector, but eventually it became the form of a triangle and the form of a sine ratio. And I always like to ask, of course, which film is this from? See if you know. So sine, cos and tan, start with a summary of what the definitions are, what methods you might use, what are the golden rules you need to learn. SOHCAHTOA, typical questions, numeric, easy, applied, a bit more wordy, some final tips, also a link often to an online quiz as well. If we go into more detail, definitions, what is sine, what is cos, tan, what are the ratios. We then go to the types of methods that you need, and in this case the major methods are, if you want to find another side, you have to identify hypotenuse, adjacent, opposite, of course, but also what about down here if you want to find an angle, and illustrates how to find an angle, and encourages them, of course, to use tan to the -1 in this case, so the inverse ratios as well. So we then just finally go on to the ways of remembering, and of course it's the SOHCAHTOA and it's the 3 formula triangles. I'll gradually reveal. So we then go to examples of questions, the easy ones and then the more difficult ones, in this case mixing it with parallel lines. And I'm clicking through quite quickly, you will go much slower, I'm sure. Then on to problems, and in this case a length or a couple of lengths of a right angle triangle. What sort of question? You're going to use trig or Pythagoras, identify which is opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, then decide your method. Oh, it's opposite, hypotenuse, and so I'm going to use SOH. And for the second part of the question, it's more about CAH, and so we introduce the CAH formula triangle. And so then finding an angle, the idea of the -1 on your calculator, finding the angle, but again going through gradually what sort of method, how do you choose it, which part of the SOHCAHTOA is it, and in this case it's CAH. And then some more applied problems, this time an area, more tricky problem, but again gradually revealing the method, which particular part of SOHCAHTOA you're going to use, and then a really difficult one, I think, in terms of towards the really high grades of GCSE. But again, a very detailed explanation and gradually going through the method. And then a mixture of Pythagoras and trigonometry, and connecting two triangles, and emphasizing you sometimes have to connect triangles, gradually revealing the methods and the answers again. And then another one, and find an angle on the side. So mixture of Pythagoras and trigonometry there. So I think this is an important part. How do you decide whether it's Pythagoras trigonometry, and if so, which part of trigonometry? And I go through gradually with a sort of method, a sequence for deciding on any particular problem. Is it Pythagoras, or is it trig? And if it's trig, how do you decide which is opposite adjacent hypotenuse? And how do you decide which part of SOHCAHTOA you're going to use? Well, next slide will show you if you decided it's trigonometry, you need an angle on this side or on your side on this part of the slide. We gradually go down through TOA, SOH, and then finally to CAH, and giving examples in each case of how you do a typical problem. And then to finish off, I always do a fast and furious, quick questions at the end, plenary exercise, just to check that the pupils have understood the method, and there's the answers to go with it. Thank you.